Hey, what is up everybody? It's Animac here for AnimeUproar, and today I will be exploring the latest crazy revelations about Dabi and his tragic backstory. Dabi's true identity has already been confirmed, but he just revealed some crucial new information about his childhood and his relationship with his father. Dabi also publicly exposed Endeavor and Hawks for all of Japan to see, and what he just did may strike a major blow against the entire hero society. Oh, and did I mention that an important character just returned from the dead? Let's get into it. If you're enjoying these Boku no Hero videos right here on the channel, please leave a like to let me know. It really does help. And if you're new to the channel, or maybe you just haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. In case you don't know, I host a weekly anime podcast with Nuxtaku and Briggs and a bunch of other guests. It's called The Rant Cafe Anime Podcast, and right now we have a deal with Spotify, so the podcast is available for free on Spotify. If you want to hear some grown dudes just ranting about anime, definitely check out the podcast, link in the description. Finally, this video will of course contain Boku no Hero manga spoilers. Please proceed with caution. You have been warned. In the previous installment of the story, we finally got the confirmation that Dabi is indeed Touya Todoroki, the eldest son of Endeavor and Shoto's older brother. This was not surprising to most of the fan base since we've been predicting this for over 3 years. But the way that this reveal took place was very interesting and very impactful. And let's face it, this whole Todoroki drama serves as a welcome distraction for Shigaraki, who desperately needs time to recover from his injuries. Now, even though we already learned Dabi's true identity, we still didn't know how this seemingly good-natured boy named Touya Todoroki became the murderous villain Dabi. This latest chapter finally answers some of those questions, and we are now beginning to understand just how Toya went from the son of a top-ranked pro hero and an aspiring hero himself to one of the most dangerous villains in the country. First up, we got an explanation about the color of Toya's hair. It seems that at first his hair was indeed red, like it was shown in the anime, but then his hair slowly began turning white. Now, obviously it didn't turn white due to old age, since Toya was just a kid, so I don't know if the color change was some sort of genetic mutation and his hair went from looking like his dad's to looking like his mom's, or what is more likely is that his hair started turning white because of the tremendous amount of stress that Toya was putting on his body during his training. And yes, it turns out that in the early years of his life, Toya was training to become a hero along with his father, Endeavor. And it seems that at least for a time, they had a positive relationship. We see Toya actually smiling while training with his dad, and he even asks Endeavor to teach him one of his super moves. Endeavor then explains that Toya was his firstborn, but despite the fact that Rei was his mother, Toya wasn't born with any sort of ice element to his quirk. At the time, Endeavor believed that possessing both a fire and ice element in your quirk is the ultimate weapon. Endeavor's fire-based quirk is powerful, but it has a major drawback. If he overuses it, Endeavor overheats. But in theory, someone who had both fire and ice elements to their quirk could use the ice side to prevent himself from overheating, and this is what Endeavor wanted to achieve. However, even though Toya's quirk didn't have an ice element, Endeavor noticed that his fire quirk was more powerful than his own. This actually makes sense because a blue flame, or the blue part of a flame, is said to be the hottest part, so it makes sense that Dabi's blue flames would be more powerful than regular flames. It seems that Endeavor was hopeful that Toya would become more powerful than him, and that Toya could be the one to one day overtake All Might. And of course, we know that Endeavor has been obsessed with surpassing All Might for many years. But just in case Toya couldn't surpass All Might, Endeavor wanted to keep having more children. He was still holding out hope that one of his children would be born with a quirk that was equal parts fire and ice. And we know that this did eventually occur with his fourth child, Shoto. In this chapter, we finally learned what happened to Toya. or at least what Endeavor and the others thought had happened to him. When he was still a child, I would say not even in his teens yet, so I'm guessing between like the ages of 10 and 12, he apparently died in a massive fire. The fire occurred on a hill where Endeavor used to train, and the flame burned at such extreme temperatures that even Toya's bones were believed to have been turned to ashes. The only remains that were found was a fragment of Toya's lower jawbone, and this led everyone to believe that Toya was dead. Endeavor tries to explain this to Dabi. He says that Toya has to be dead, but Dabi claims that no, he is alive and kicking. Even the villains didn't know the truth about Dabi's secret identity, and they seem as surprised as everyone else. Since Endeavor still seems to be doubting Dabi's words, Dabi basically says, yo, let's go on Mori and I will prove that you are the father. Well, he might as well be saying that because Dabi offers to show Endeavor a DNA test that proves that the likelihood of them two being father and son is 99.99%. In fact, Dabi already obtained a sample of Endeavor's blood back in Kyushu, and he used it to conduct a DNA test without Endeavor's knowledge. As we speak, Dabi is publicizing the results of the test in his public broadcast, proving to the entire world that he is indeed the son of the #1 pro hero. During the broadcast, Dabi goes on to explain that Endeavor was an abusive father who would get physical with his family, including with his trophy son, Shoto. After exposing Endeavor's true personality, Dabi asks whether this is the type of person who should be glorified as the #1 pro hero. Endeavor's fanboys who are watching the broadcast, including that one kid from the pro hero arc who looks like Natsu from Fairy Tail, simply don't want to accept what Dabi is saying. In this critical moment for the hero society, the people still want to believe in Endeavor and the other pro heroes. But Dabi doesn't stop there. After exposing the #1 pro hero, he goes on to expose the #2 pro hero, Hawks. Apparently, Skeptic had recorded the very moment in which Hawks killed Twice, and Skeptic then goes on to broadcast that moment fully uncensored for everyone to see. Dabi massages the truth by claiming that Twice was crying and trying to run away, and Hawks still brutally killed him by stabbing him in the back. Dabi also claims that he tried to protect Twice, but failed. This is obviously a skewed narrative, since we know that Hawks killed Twice in order to prevent him from using Sadman's parade to murder who knows how many heroes and other people. And we also know that Hawks offered Twice a way out, but Twice repeatedly rejected it. After reading this chapter, it really seems like Dabi never really intended to protect Twice. It's much more likely that Dabi wanted Hawks to kill Twice so that he could capture the footage and then use that footage to make Hawks and the entire hero society look bad. It's highly unlikely that all of this happening and Dabi capturing the footage is just a big coincidence. It's much more likely that Dabi intended for all of this to happen from the start. Dabi then goes on to accuse Hawks of yet another murder. Dabi claims that Hawks killed the #3 pro hero, Best Jeanist, in order to prove his loyalty to the villains and convince them to trust him. And we were, of course, led to believe that Hawks was behind the disappearance of Best Jeanist. But that was before we knew that Hawks wasn't actually a villain. Hawks wasn't really a bad guy, and he definitely didn't kill Best Jeanist, but more on that later. In order to further incriminate Hawks, Dabi reveals that Hawks' own father was a villain, a serial thief and murderer. Hawks' father was apparently caught by Endeavor, and ever since then, Hawks' background and identity were hidden from the public because they didn't want the world to know that Hawks was the son of a villain. If what Dabi says here is true, it would definitely explain Hawks' admiration for Endeavor. If Endeavor saved Hawks from a villain father, potentially an abusive villain father, then Hawks would definitely look at Endeavor as a savior and as a replacement father figure. Overall though, Dabi's message to the people of Japan is simple. The heroes are not who you think they are. They are not these selfless, altruistic people. They are liars and hypocrites who only care about themselves. The heroes are deceiving the public, and they are prepared to lie, cheat, and even kill to get what they want. Dabi is hoping that his broadcast will cause the public to lose faith in the #1 pro hero Endeavor and in all heroes in general. And at a time like this, when major villains have been wreaking havoc in multiple cities, losing faith in the hero society as a whole could cause widespread panic and chaos. Now, of course, the people are not about to start supporting the villains just because they saw Dabi's broadcast. I am sure that they still want the heroes to win, even if the heroes turn out to be less than perfect people. But with that said, if the people see that the heroes are incapable of stopping the destruction caused by the villains, and if they also become convinced that the heroes are selfish sociopaths who don't actually want to help them, then desperation and panic will certainly kick in. We will likely see widespread civil unrest and instability, and that will only facilitate the villain's goal of destroying the hero society. Dabi then jumps down from Machia's back and prepares to use Flashfire Fist, his father's own super move, against him. Shoto tells Endeavor to move, but Endeavor is frozen. He is stunned by the revelation that Dabi is his son, because in his heart of hearts, he always did believe that Toya was alive. He just never imagined that Toya had become the notorious villain known as Dabi. But before Dabi can lay waste to Endeavor and the others using Endeavor's own technique, he is interrupted by none other than Best Jeanist. Just as I had predicted in my previous videos, Best Jeanist was the person inside that aircraft. And he is now using his ability to control fabric to control those massive steel wires that were stored on the aircraft. And as I speculated earlier, Best Jeanist is indeed using the wires to try and restrain Machia. As he arrives on the scene, Best Jeanist apologizes for being fashionably late, haha, fashion joke, and that is how this chapter ends. It is now confirmed that Hawks did not really kill Best Jeanist. And I mean, since we know that he was only pretending to be a villain, I'd always assumed that Best Jeanist was indeed alive. I'm guessing Jeanist just disappeared for a while so that Hawks can pretend to have killed him and use that as a way to infiltrate the villains. This was definitely another fascinating chapter, and we might now finally have a way to actually stop Machia, at least temporarily. But even though this chapter gave us a lot of answers, it also left us with some pretty big questions. We now know that Toya was believed to have died in a fire on a hill where his father would often train. But we don't know how exactly Toya ended up in that situation. How did someone with a fire-based quirk end up in a situation where he was presumed to have died in a fire? And since we know that he didn't die, what happened to him? He was still a child when the fire happened, so where did he go after the fire? In terms of how Toya ended up in that fire, I'm sure that we will get some more information about it in the coming chapters, but my own guess is this. We know that Toya was still living with the Todoroki family when Shoto was born, and he was with them for the first several years of Shoto's life. We also know from the latest chapter that Toya had a somewhat positive relationship with his father, at least at first, and he seemed to be enjoying his training. In fact, we saw that Toya was even excited to learn Endeavor's moves. However, in this chapter, we also saw that Toya's training was taking a physical toll on his body. His hair was turning white, his skin was getting burnt from using his quirk, and so on. My guess is that once Shoto was born and his quirk began to manifest, Endeavor started paying more attention to Shoto and he neglected Toya. Because Shoto's quirk had both fire and ice, Endeavor probably thought that Shoto was the better bet for surpassing All Might. He might even have been thinking of Toya's well-being when he came to this conclusion. Toya's quirk clearly hurts his body when he uses it, but Shoto's ice ability would help Shoto avoid the drawbacks of overheating. So when Endeavor decided to focus most of his energy on Shoto, he might have been doing it because he thought it was best for everyone, including Toya. But the young Toya seemed to be really enjoying training with his father. And so Endeavor's decision to focus on Shoto probably broke his heart and made him extremely jealous. I am guessing that Toya decided to train on his own so that he could get strong enough to get his father's attention once again. He wanted to prove to his father that he could be the one to surpass All Might, and I'm guessing that one day he took his training a step too far. He overused his quirk, lost control, caused a massive fire, and caused serious injuries to himself. I have no idea what happened to his jawbone, but presumably that injury was caused by the fire. Toya must have been rescued from the fire by someone, and that someone presumably also treated his injuries. I don't know if this someone was a villain or a random person, but it is clear that eventually Toya concluded that what happened to him was Endeavor's fault. If Endeavor hadn't neglected him for the sake of Shoto, Toya never would have pushed himself so hard and permanently disfigured himself with his own quirk in the process of trying to get stronger. This is just speculation on my part, but that's what I'm thinking right now. Let me know what you guys think. How did Toya end up in that fire? And who rescued him and raised him after the fire? Don't forget to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Finally, what do you think is going to happen with Machia now? So far, he has been an incredible ace in the hole for the villains, but did best Jeanist just take him out of the picture? Since Machia needs his master's orders before acting, and Shigaraki is currently indisposed due to his injuries, it is possible that Jeanist's plan might work. But again, Dabi's appearance and the entire drama around him is the perfect distraction for Shigaraki. And so this may give Shigaraki just enough time to recover and rejoin the battle. And of course, if Shigaraki recovers, he can also give orders to Machia. Honestly, I can't wait to see what happens next, and definitely let me know what you guys think will happen down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more Boku no Hero content right here on the channel, please leave a like to let me know. It really does help. And if you're new to AnimeUproar, or maybe you just haven't subscribed, make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. You can also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar. I want to give a big thank you to all of our AnimeUproar patrons for making videos like this one possible. Special thank you to Alpha Sigma, disciple of Lord Twigo himself. And I can't forget all of our The One tier patrons, the ones who stand above all other clans, including Ingrata, The World, Acquired Respect, Liam Thompson, Pate Heffa, Red Haired Raven, Rithian YX, Emperor Otaku, Thomas Jones, Spidey Life Tanel, and Baked Buddhist. Finally, thank you to our Pro Hero tier patrons, including the one and only Gilgamesh, Steelers, Angel Cruz, Anatoly Kazatsky, Cricket XP, Joe Stanton, Rathuin Deora, Very Gucci, Jessica Calafond, Alicia Octer, Hinokami and Water, Bonnie Parks, Florian, Joanne Garcia, Jack Watches Anime, Amanda C, Deadly Saint, High School DxD 73, Matthew Cruz, and Anthony Schreiber. If you enjoy our videos and you believe that they add value to you, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Even a single dollar will give you access to our patron exclusive Discord, and your name will appear in our videos along with these legendary people. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.